Thank you so much, Francesca. A lovely talk. And I gotta say that I loved your book, which I think is appropriate. And I'm sure that more here and around the world will have a chance to fall in love with it as well. So we are running a bit late, I'm afraid. I'll try to keep the conversation a bit more tight and short. But I'd like to start by asking you a question about your title. So why is being posthuman an art? Why is it not a science or a craft? And I think that the answer might also connect somehow to the way that you wrote the book, which is both poetic and philosophical. Could you talk about this art, and does it have anything to do with the creative part of writing, with the creative part of posthumanism as poiesis? I'd like to hear your thoughts about that.
Thank you so much, Manuel. It is a great question. I think that art is truly at the core of our experience as existing being. Science, if you look at the roots of the term science, it goes into knowledge, scientia, that came from Latin, which meant knowledge. It could be also the science of being human in the sense of knowing, but I would like to transcend this and going beyond knowledge, going beyond something that you can study. It is the art of enjoying something. And in that sense, I think that the only really real reason for us to be here is enjoying to be here, is enjoying what we do, is enjoying the archetype that we are creating. Because space-time has memory. We are part of a collective conscious and a collective unconscious. We are all manifesting together. And in that sense, the art is also as this element of, coming from ancient Latin arts, is also something that, the crafting of something is, in the ancient time, the artist was not considered someone that made their own thing. First of all, they had to be very crafted, skilled artisans, but they also were channeling, the divine. In fact, all the ancient art, there is never a name. So there was not a Michelangelo, there was not any person that would bring their name to a work of art, because throughout all the ancient time, art was divine. It was to represent the sacred. And in that sense, the artist was the one who would channel the sacred to them. So in that sense, they were not making the art. It was the divine power that was making the art through their skills. So in that sense, I really like the idea of being that art, and also that there is no one way of being posthuman. And I want to really underline this. I want to say that if there was one way, it would be the end of it. It would be the death of the posthuman. The reason why it's so fascinating for me to be in this field is because it's happening, because it's diverse, because we are one and many at the same time. And there is no one single answer that can be given to all. And in that sense, if we are really working with the art of being posthuman, is also being in contact with each other and be witnessing for each other artwork, and also being realizing that sometimes we get caught in any dream. It can be the dream of supremacy, like human supremacy, or it can be the opposite, the fear of the anxiety of being the bad one. So we are a cancer of the earth. There are, for instance, some anti-human groups that are actually very happy about humans being extinct. I am for neither position. I don't think that human is better than any other species or is worse than any other species. I think that we are one among many other species, and like many other species, our only reason why for being here is realizing who we are. And this to me goes well beyond the intellect, having the brain. I don't believe that animals who don't have a big brain cannot think that, and I don't believe that plants have an incredible way of communicating through the root system. So in that sense, I really think that the art is enjoying, is the aspect of enjoying your life, do the best you can, craft your work of art, be that archetype that you want to be reading about, be your own mythology. And so give the others with your own epic. And in that sense, it really opened to all these possibilities where other terms could have maybe been a little more enclosed.
Yes, and something that I really loved about your book is that it's not only an outstanding academic achievement, I think, but also includes many personal anecdotes as well. And I think that was on purpose because you wanted to reach a wider audience, but I think it worked very well. And at times it felt to me almost as close as a memoir. And you tell stories, and one of the stories that you tell in the book is about a plant when you were 8 years old in Italy. And I was wondering if you could tell us that story here and reflect on what it says about posthuman love.
Thank you, Manuel. It's so interesting how that story came back to me because I completely forgot about this plant. I'm going to explain everyone who have not read the book yet who is this plant. But it's very interesting because it was some years ago, and I was teaching at NYU contemporary philosophy. I always teach the posthuman in that specific section. And I was asking everyone to think of a moment of interspecies connection. So I asked everyone, take a couple of minutes and think of a moment where you really connected with someone who was not a human. Could have been an animal, could be your laptop, could be anything. So I always do also the exercises when I'm asking my students to do it. So I'm there in silence, and all of a sudden, boom, I have this memory that I completely forgot. And so when I was 8, step back, I grew up in Italy. I grew up specifically in Torino, which is a very beautiful city at the time, was very industrial. Now it's a little less. The Fiat, maybe some of you are familiar with these companies, like car company was based in Torino. So it is a big city. It was an interesting city at the time, a lot of migration, especially within Italy. And it was also very polluted because it was the 80s, a lot of cars. And so I used to live in this complex on the building. It was the 8th floor. And so we had a balcony and we had plants. And one plant, I don't know if I chose the plant. I don't know. I don't remember how the plant became part of our, was there. I don't remember but the plant was there. It was a small plant. It's originally from China, and it has small tangerines that are really bitter, and has small leaves that are shiny and dark green. And so I started to get, I had a good friend, Marco. We were best friends, and he would come and we would just take care of plants. And my plant I felt a very deep connection with this plant. So I would spend a full hour cleaning each of the leaves from the traffic, from the smog of Turin. So I would get rid of all the gray pollution on each of the leaves. And then in the spring, you would start to see the little fruit come out, and then they would come out, and I would eat them, and they were so zesty and sour, and I still remember the flavor perfectly. And so this friendship between me and this plant, I would talk to her. I was a child. I wouldn't think it was weird to talk to a plant. So I would talk to her, and I perceived that she would reply to me in her own way. I say her just because in Italy, plant is used as a feminine. Feminine is a language that does gender everything, and the plant is feminine. So that's why I say her. And so this friendship went on for a couple of years. And at one point, so I became a teenager, eventually was, 12, 13. I started to become less interested in plants and more about human friendships. And all of a sudden, the plant was no longer there. I don't even remember what happened. She might have died. I have no idea. But to me, it was very surprising that such a strong connection that I had as a child to this plant that was very dear to me. I would literally spend a whole hour cleaning each of these leaves. And this went on year after year. And eventually, I became much more interested in human societies. I fall in love with humanity, and that's what I was saying before I started to travel. I want to learn everything about humanity. And I think I did. That's why now I moved away from humanity. I live in upstate New York, in the middle of more wilderness and wild animals and the mountains, because I think I understood humanity and I understand humanity. But at the time I was young. I really wanted to understand humanity. And I don't even remember what happened to her. One day she was no longer on the balcony. And then when I was writing this book, I asked my mother, and she had a very weak recollection of the plane. She doesn't remember what happened to the plane. So she probably died, and I didn't even notice. I was so much caught in my, anthropomorphic world, the little world, that I couldn't even notice that a friend had died, and I couldn't even say goodbye to her. And so it was very interesting to me to see my own transformation and how now she is part of me. She was always deep in my consciousness. I just forgot about her, and she came back to me through one posthuman exercise, and how the mind of a child is really open to understand existence in ways that are not categorized. And so a plant can be your friend, and you can spend a full hour with a plant, taking care of the plant, and it is okay. So that was, I think it was a good example, of some interspecies, maybe love, if you want to call it, since it's posthuman Valentine today. And that maybe would be, I can dedicate to this little plant who maybe now is part of everything else in the interbeing of things. And that maybe is my dedication to her, as, having this book launch as a posthuman, post-anthropocentric Valentine. So thank you, Manuel, for asking the question.
That's a lovely story. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. So as I said, we're running a bit late. So I think that probably the best way to continue is to, I've chosen sort of two questions or two topics that came up, one from the forum that was circulating, one from the chat. And I think that I'm gonna put them both on the table for you. We'll give you a chance to meditate on these topics, and then we will close the session. So the first one was one that someone wrote before. It was Buz Aslan, and I hope I have pronounced your name correctly. I apologize if I haven't. And it's about your three visions, the three visions of posthumanism, post/hyphen-humanism, post-anthropocentrism, and post-dualism, and about the place of post-dualism in this triad. And I would go a little further, since it's Valentine's Day, since this is a special Valentine's Day event. What about the place of post-dualism in posthuman philosophy? Yes, but what about post-dualism also in the idea of love? The day is very much about it's gendered, so you have two hierarchical oppositions, male, female. You have couples, and how does posthumanism and post-dualism help us to think through these issues and how we see love and how we celebrate love? And the second.
Thank you so much, Manuel. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's my bad. The second question, so it's about extractivism.
Manuel, maybe can I answer this first, and then we go to the, so this is still fresh in my mind.
Go ahead.
And then we go. What a great question. So let's start maybe from the end of the question, and then we flow to the beginning. So it is a very good question. It's posthuman Valentine, and often Valentine is thought as the romantic love of one person towards another. Usually it would be, one gender, for another person, like two adults, romantic love, etc., etc. I would say nothing bad on any of these. If love towards whoever, it can be another person of a different gender, of your gender, of a family member, of any love, like if that love is making you a better person, if that love gives you joy, if that love, makes you wake up with a smile, thinking of this person because this person brings love to you. If this love is something that you cherish and that makes you bring love to others because now you love. So often, in this era of capitalism, we think of love as something that if we give to a person, we cannot give to another. It's almost like an object. If I give you my gong, Manuel, then I cannot use it no longer. But we don't understand the gong is inside of us, it vibrates. Love is not something that once you give, you don't have. The more love you give, the more you have. If you're really talking about real love. Now, that's when I want to make a clarification that, in many of the books, in many of the movies that we see, romantic love is portrayed as an appropriation. I love you because you are mine. I love you because I possess you. I love you because you are, in the past, you could even say slave. So that to me is not love. Is not nourishing a good side of us. Is nourishing a side of us that is making us unhappy. Because then, I come from Italy. And in Italy, especially when I grew up, there was still this myth of, loving someone to death and they have to be yours. And I liked all these romantic songs from the 50s. So first, I would play with the jealousy and I would be more sick than the other person. I would be the one in pain. And the more you play the game of jealousy and anger, the more you get sick. The other person eventually just leave you. Good for them. But you are the one who are going to very much disease yourself. So in that sense, I think that medias do not do us a favor in portraying that kind of love as the love that we should run after. Because that is not love. That is attachment. And attachments are never good. No kind of attachment is good. Not even attachment to something good. It is interesting, the Zen Buddhists say, if you get attached to the notion of enlightenment, then you will never get there. So not even the so-called good attachments are good. No attachments are good. The only way that you can really find your love, your freedom, is really opening yourself to cosmic love. If you go through all the mystics tradition, it comes to my mind clearly Sufi tradition, because they really talk about this divine love. And I know that often in many other traditions, we take too seriously this notion of God, and then we close off on tradition that use the notion of God. But God doesn't have to be this entity that is out there. God is within. God can be everything. And so in that sense, the notion of this universal cosmic God, love, the more you give, the more you're going to receive. So to me, this is when, a post-anthropocentric notion of love can really help to heal our own species. And that notion of, loving someone because they are ours, this, capitalistic approach of love, it in the end is poison the self. It makes you feel really bad because eventually no one wants to be in a cage, even if it's golden. And I talk about this in my book in the section about technology. No one wants to be, eventually Buddha leaves the golden palace because he needs to be with the people dying to understand who he is. Eventually the princess leave the castle because they're tired of being controlled. So no one eventually like to take in their freedom. No slave can be slave forever, to quote Martin Luther King. So I would say that, that love is an attachment, as a possessiveness, that is bad for the person who is enacting, even more than the person who is going to be, eventually leave the person. But when we think of love as what we are not having love, we are loving. So if we think that as the essence of what we are, the more we love, the more this love expands. And in that sense, post-dualism, going to the question, is really, I think, the most important topic for the people who are into self-inquiry. I would say that, post-humanism is still, there are human supremacists, of course, but is understood. I think that all human beings understand that they want to be dignified, that they want to respect. Post-anthropocentrism is happening right now. In the era of the Anthropocene, we now know that anthropocentrism is not doing us any favor. So it is becoming part of, common law and global discussion. So it is happening. We're slow on that, but it is becoming part of collective consciousness. Now, post-dualism, it's something that probably will never become part of collective consciousness, because once you know who you are outside of the game. And for the game to go on, you need some type of illusion, you need some type of Maya. So I would believe that post-dualism will be always there for whoever seeker want to really know who they are. And in that sense, this is really atemporal. I like to say post-dualism instead of non-dualism, because since we grew up in very dualistic societies, we eventually forget that our nature is definitely non-dual. But of course, all the traditions eventually really bring us back to this understanding of the macros being the macro. Mysticism, always a great example of all traditions, because all traditions have mystics in their path. So I would say that post-dualism is something that is a work in progress. Even if we go beyond anthropocentrism, we will see other forms of dualisms. For instance, biocentrism. For instance, the idea that maybe technological beings are less or more than biological beings. Think in a close future, maybe biological humans or non-human entities will say, oh, well, AI, is less than us. Or maybe super intelligent AI would say, well, maybe those biological humans are not that enlightened since they've been killing and raping each other for the last 2,000 years. So there are going to be other forms of centricism that we're going to be witnessing. And so the point is always going back to deconstructing, to going back always to the core, always to the flow, always to the Tao, always to the flux. And in that sense, I think post-dualism is a constant reward for the people who are ready to ask the question, who am I? Who are we? That is a question that not everyone is interested in asking, and it is absolutely fine. I really believe in the freedom of playing the game we want in our life. But I believe that eventually in our life, we will get tired of, the jealousy game, of the capitalistic game, of the, racist game, of the sexist games. These games all eventually get really tiring and poisoning for the people who are involved in this, because hate, even if you're not part of the games, hate is really not a pleasant feeling. I was in all my traveling and being hosted in family. I was in South Africa when I was 19-year-old in families there. And that was during, Mandela just got elected. It was a great time for South Africa, but the hate between people was still very palpable. I was in Johannesburg, and you could really feel, the vibration, you could feel it in the air beyond your color of the skin, because it was not even about being white or black. It was between all these groups just really hating each other. And I remember, walking in Johannesburg and feeling, wow, I feel the hate in the air. It's not about me. No one is giving me hate, but I feel it. I feel the distress that this place is going through. And I know that now things are better. But if you traumatize people, if you're enslaving people, that is part of also of the masters. I saw that one of the questions was about the master slave. If you are hating people, the hate is also part of you. And if you study history, for instance, of slavery in the Americas, a lot of masters were afraid of being poisoned by slaves, and one way to do it was by slaves working in the house, and they would make very small powder of glass, and then they would put it in the food because they used to cook for the masters, and so the masters would die in ways they were not detected, because at the time there were not autopsies or anything like that. And so to me, that's no surprise, because if you are living in a place that is, you are hating and you are dehumanizing people, that is going to go back to us. I mean, this is the karma that, for instance, the Hindus talk about. So I would say that, post-dualism is, I think, at the core of the existential wandering, of the existential path. And it is going to be a work in progress. I think as a society, we will never, ever become just post-dualistic, because it will be almost the end of the game of Leela. But it is something that we can embark as individuals, as groups, even maybe as a species, even maybe as a cosmos. And that would be the end of the universal cycle, maybe the end of one cycle and the beginning of the next cycle in the big yugas of times.
It's just such a wonderful answer again. And I think this will be the perfect time to end the session. We have so many wonderful questions and comments about philosophical greenwashing, about extractivism, AI, and so many other. We have someone who had just pre-ordered the book, which is fantastic. But I invite everyone to take these questions with you and to meditate on them with the art of being posthuman. Thank you all so much. I think thank you all for being here, for talking to us. Thank you especially to Francesca for writing the book, for sharing their philosophy with us. I wish much love to everyone. Before I will, Francesca, I will leave you. I'll give you the last word. I'll let you close the session. But before I do that, I'd just like to announce that the next Cultures of the Future talk will be next month on March the 6th, same time, 5 p.m. Lisbon time. It'll be hosted by my dear friend Jessica, who is here with us, and our guest will be Emma Ray, and she will talk about the child in video games. There will be more details on the chat and on the screen. Thank you all again. Much love to everyone. Francesca, would you like to close the session?
Thank you so much, Manuel. I would like to thank again everyone for giving us the gift of the presence. I want to say that after the pandemic, a lot of people, who wanted also to meet in the physical world were not able to do it. We started to resume a lot of posthuman activities. I'm personally going to be in India, if you are in the Indian subcontinent, from the 1st to the 3rd of March. There is a conference at Bangalore University, at the Alliance University. Then we're going to be with a physical presence in Rome in August 2024 for the World Congress of Philosophy, so you're all welcome there. We're going to be again in Rome, in Bologna for the Posthuman Summer Camp. You're all invited to send your application. It is done with absolutely no scope of making any revenue, so you just have to pay for your food. And then after that, we're going to have the Latin American meeting in Mexico. We're going to announce it soon. So if you are based around Mexico, in the areas around Mexico, you can come there. So it is like eventually going to give always the option of the online format for everyone who want to commit and to commute on some level and also meet the community. It is important to meet the community. And also we are going to have like local meetings locally for people who can come from specific areas so that we don't have to fly too far, to meet each other. And so, if you're around India, in Bangladesh or Pakistan, maybe if you want, you can come there if you want to meet in person. If you are in Europe, if you are, close to Italy, you can come there. If you are somewhere in Latin America, you can come to Mexico. And we will keep going in the next 5 years in different places so that people in the area can also meet in person. And the online option will be always there. We're always there. You have been here for me today, and I'm always here for you. And I would like to thank again so much Manuel and Ines and Portugal, a country that I deeply love, and everyone here for being together. I would like to end our meeting with 1 minute meditation about posthuman love. And I would like you to really perceive inside of you your loving energy and the way you are going to be being that today. Be posthuman love with the image you're going to be writing today. Be kind. Be kind with maybe the dog who is running to the street and come to say hi to you. Be kind to your parents if you live with your parents. Be kind to your spouse if you live with a spouse. Be kind to your children. Be kind to your plants if you have any tree around you. Be kind with your car if you're commuting somewhere, or be kind with a bus driver if you're taking a bus. Be kind to anyone. Be kind to yourself, most importantly. So I want to take 1 minute for you to really connect to your loving energy where we all have love inside of us. And then we're going to depart. 1 minute of connection, and I'm going to start now. So thank you so much, everyone. I'm actually going to send you all my love for this special day. We are here, we are connected always, as always, and thank you so much again for celebrating together our post-human Valentine. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Francesca Ferrando's new book, The Art of Being Posthuman, should be out now with Polity Press. Thank you all for coming, and happy Posthuman Valentine to everyone here.